Hey everyone, Chris G here, and here we have a 2023 Toyota Tundra. Now we do a lot of car reviews on this channel, and lately we've been doing quite a few things about how you can improve the aesthetics on your Toyota Tundra if you already own one. But for those that are in the market for a new pickup truck and are kind of on the fence of whether or not they should buy one, here is a list of reasons why you may not want to buy the new 2023 or 2022 Toyota Tundra. That said though, if you're just tuning in, please also watch our video on reasons why you should buy the Toyota Tundra. But nevertheless, what we want to talk about today is why you shouldn't get one of these bad boys and possibly some alternatives of what you should buy instead. Number one on our list, and this might seem a little bit nitpicky, but that's kind of what we do here, is the auto start stop engine feature. Now, a lot of modern cars today come with an auto start stop where basically as you approach a traffic light and you put your foot on the brake, the engine cuts off. And what that does is it's supposed to kind of help with fuel economy as well as emissions. The thing is though, is that Toyotas have this kind of annoying habit of not implementing it all that well. In the previous generation Toyotas, they not only seemed to have a mind of their own, but there wasn't any sort of consistency with how you put your foot on the brake and when it would actually cut the engine off. Well, they have improved that slightly on the newest generation Tundra, whereas you have to apply firmer pressure in order to turn off the engine. However, there are some times where it still acts a little bit annoying. For one, it still sort of seems to have an algorithm that kind of does what it wants. That said, it does have the ability to extend the amount of time that it's turned off based on whether or not you've got climate control running and stuff like that. But the biggest annoyance that I have is when you put the car in park, it will very quickly shut the engine off and then turn it back on. And there doesn't seem to be a way that you can actually leave the engine off. For example, in the Honda Civic, Porsche 911, actually almost pretty much any other car that I've reviewed, when you put the car in park and it enacts the auto off, the car stays off when it is in park until you either sit in there for too long or hit the gas pedal or something like that. But on the Tundra, there doesn't seem to be a way to actually keep the engine off when you are in park. Instead, it just sort of turns off and then turns back on. It's kind of pointless and a little bit annoying. And while we are on the subject of annoying things that happen with the brake pedal, the brake hold feature on this Tundra is maybe the worst and actually borderline a deal breaker for me at least. So again, a lot of modern cars have this feature where if you sort of like, you approach a red light and you sort of press hard on the brake pedal, it will automatically engage the brakes so you can take your foot off of it, kind of giving your foot a little bit of a chance to rest. It's kind of a nice touch, especially if you're in a lot of stop and go traffic or in a lot of city driving. Now, in the Tundra, you have to turn the brake hold feature on and off every single time you get in the car. It doesn't default to the last mode that you selected. Now, Toyota claims that this is a safety feature and that they do this because, well, it's dangerous for it to remember your previous setting. But every other car that I have ever driven that has brake hold remembers it, and that includes Tesla, that includes Honda, Porsche, etc., and so forth. No, Toyota is the only company that makes you turn the brake hold on and off every single time you get in the car. Now, why I find this dangerous is because since I haven't still quite gotten into the habit of pressing the car on and then hitting the little brake hold feature, sometimes I will get to a traffic light or behind another vehicle where I will press on the brake, let go thinking that it's going to auto hold, and it just sort of inches and creeps forward really quickly, and then I have to remember, ah shit, I didn't put on brake hold. If it just did it by default, I wouldn't have to worry about that. So every single time you get into the car, you have to press this button, and then you hit your foot on the brake, auto hold locks in, and then you have to push it in a little bit further, and then it shuts the engine off. It's just a lot of extra steps for something that's not that intuitive. I don't know, like every other car company has been able to implement this technology better. Why hasn't Toyota? Next up on our list is that the Tundra doesn't come with any front tow hooks. Now that may not seem like a big deal on SR, maybe SR5 models, or even any of the more road-going trim packages. However, the TRD Pro and any of the TRD Off-Road, and for that matter TRD Sport packages, also do not come with tow hooks in the front. Now that may not seem like a big deal to a lot, but for those that will be using this truck for off-roading and adventuring and overlanding and all of that good camping stuff, sometimes they may want a tow hook in the front. Now, Toyota claims that they don't put tow hooks in the front because, well, they're not all that necessary and it saves on gas mileage. But honestly, how much fuel economy are they trying to save on a vehicle that gets less than 20 miles to the gallon regardless? And for that matter, you could have and should have made it an optional extra, but ultimately it should have just been a standard on the TRD Pro model, but it isn't. That said, you can get an aftermarket front tow hook on it from a company called AFE, but the problem with that is that they install kind of towards the bottom of the frame here, and if you have the air dam, I believe that it makes it hard, if not impossible, to install, but ultimately it also means that anytime you have the straps on the front tow hooks, they're kind of digging into the bottom bumper, which a lot of people are not, the bottom of the bumper, which a lot of people are not going to appreciate. Anyway, a little bit of a glaring mistake on Toyota's part, especially considering they cater to an off-road market. Now let's talk power. The Toyota Tundra seems a little anemic if you compare it to the likes of the Ram or the Ford. For example, the Ford has an EcoBoost V6 that has, I believe, 400 horsepower out the gate, whereas the Tundra only comes with 389. I might be mixing these numbers up slightly, but the point is that it is fewer horses than the Ford. Now, again, this may not seem like that big of a deal, except, and I will get into this a little bit later, there does seem to be a little bit of oddities in the way that the car handles both its fuel economy as well as its acceleration. Now, ultimately, this is probably one of the best fuel economy pickup trucks on the market, but let's call a spade. It tends to be that when you're buying a pickup truck, fuel economy isn't exactly your first priority. In any event, towing capacities tend to be a little bit better on the Ram and the Ford. Now, this does vary widely depending on the configuration Tundra you get, such as the double cab versus the Crew Max, and whether or not you get the V6 versus the hybrid, you get the idea. But on average, when you compare brands to trim packages, the Toyota seems to suffer a little bit in that department in terms of towing capacity. Now, Toyota does say that when they opted for a V6 twin turbo, not just because of fuel economy, but also because it tends to have better towing capacity in higher altitude regions, such as like Colorado or other mountainous areas. Now that may make sense. So if you're comparing it to, like, let's say a Ram that has a V8 in it, well, great, then the NA engine is just going to be a little bit tougher to tow things with. But nevertheless, it is worth mentioning that towing capacities tend to be a little less on the Tundra than they are on the other cars. That said, the towing capacity is pretty great, and ultimately, I don't think most people are going to miss the very slight differences between them, but nevertheless, it is worth noting. If you are somebody that is constantly tugging a boat or a horse trailer, equipment of some kind, you get the idea, car trailer, then ultimately you may want to look at a different platform. And by the way, while we were on the subject of other manufacturers, now's probably a good time to bring up the next item on our list, which is inventory. Tundras seem to be the only truck that you can't get. So for example, I had to settle for this TRD Sport SR5 model, and while it is very handsomely equipped with things like a digital rearview mirror, better audio, better screen in the center, all that good stuff, it's not the Limited or the Platinum or Capstone, you get the idea. It's just missing quite a few luxuries in it that come standard on other cars. And by the way, if you go to a Ram dealership, there is nothing but inventory available, and ultimately you will be able to get a better deal on a Ram than you can any of the Tundras. Basically, the dealerships are gonna play ball a little more and probably offer maybe as much as like $4,000 to $5,000 to even $6,000 off of MSRP, whereas the Tundras, I have called around to many dealerships, and the absolute max I have been able to get off is about $1,500. By the way, that said, I am actually going to sell this TRD Sport, and I think I'm probably going to upgrade it to a Limited. I'll make another video as to why, comparing those two platforms, but nevertheless, let's not talk about that now. Anyway though, if you also go to a Ford dealership, you are more likely to find inventory of Fords in any trim that you want. So that means if you want to go in there for the Tremor, if you want the off-roading capabilities, or like, let's say, just a nice Lariat, you get the idea. There seems to be inventory available. But no, with Toyota, you have to hunt. And the thing with Toyotas too is that you can't just customize a Toyota like you can other vehicles. No, you have to wait for Toyota to come up with the configuration, allocate it to a dealer, and then you can buy it. And depending on what model trim you want, you may also have to wait a long time and also pay more than MSRP on it, because some dealerships are of course putting a value-added markup on it. Now, Toyota has a thing where they don't allow dealerships to put added markup on their vehicles. However, dealerships are getting by this by adding things like rust protection and paint protection, and then stupid things like, you know, interior leather warranties and stuff that you'll ultimately never be able to take advantage of and probably never be able to use. And of course, they're charging several $1,000s for it. But in any event, limited inventory seems to be Toyota's game right now, and it can be very, very annoying and a bit of a turn off if you're trying to find a very specific model. For example, actually one last thing, in the TRD Limited, in the Tundra Limited that I want, I can only find it in dark gray, because on the East Coast, that's apparently all they're allocating. But I'm really quite fond of the white. By the way, when I was buying this one, white was about the only SR5 that they were delivering. So anyway, kind of a weird thing. And in the spirit of comparing the Tundra to other manufacturers, we come to the next item on our list. And that is that the Tundra seems to lack certain innovations that other manufacturers really try to achieve on their pickup trucks. For example, the Ram has the Ram boxes. The GMC and Chevrolet products all have like a built-in step in the back bumper. Here you have to buy this stupid step. That, by the way, costs $400. It doesn't come with the truck. No, you have to buy it separately. You also don't have any of the innovations that Ford tends to have. Now, one innovation that Ford does have is where you can like push the tailgate up and it electronically closes for you. Now, honestly, that is sort of the lazy man's pickup truck, and that's just one more motor to break. But one thing I do love about the Ford pickup trucks is they have the built-in step in the center here. They have kind of this like workbench area with a ruler on it. And by the way, there's also, I think the Jeeps and some of the Chevrolet products, and I think some of the other Chrysler products also have it to where you can keep the tailgate sort of like half open. There's just a bunch of kind of clever things that the other manufacturers do that Toyota just doesn't. And I'm not really sure why that is. I mean, I guess you do have a power outlet in the truck bed here. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but you do have to get the power package in order to get that. For that matter, that's also something that comes standard on, I think, Lariat trims and up on the Fords. And other manufacturers ultimately have that feature too. So yeah, Toyota just doesn't try to do anything special on their trucks. They leave that to the other guys. And I guess one could make the argument too that, you know, simple is better and less is more, and less there is, less to go wrong. But hey, it's at least worth noting. Next up on our list is cheap quality. The Tundra just feels plasticky. Everything in this truck is made of hard plastic. There are no plush materials to speak of. And even if you go with a limited trim, you still have the plastic top up here. They do make this part right here soft. However, you then get rid of the little storage cubby that is afforded to those that keep the hard plastic. Everything in here is plastic, with no rubber, no matting, nothing on it to make sure that things don't clank around or slide or anything like that. It is really a shame because Toyota, well, owns Lexus, who are the masters at creating a luxurious interior. But Toyota, the guys at Toyota managed to make this be one of the cheapest looking and feeling pickup trucks available on the market. Now, I guess one would make the argument that, like, you know, it's hard and plasticky because it's a utility truck and meant for men and breaking shit. But ultimately, a truck that is $60,000 or more shouldn't have this kind of material. And that seems the same is said on the outside of the car as well. There are little trim pieces all around that are just plasticky and not quite aligned and feeling good. There are squeaks and rattles and other things that just get on your nerves. And then of course the coup de grace is that there is no atmospheric lighting in, I believe, any trim level lower than the Platinum. So that means that most cars these days come with some kind of floor light or ambient light in the handles. I mean, something to just kind of give you a little bit of atmosphere and kind of help you see things in the cabin. But no, if you are not willing to spend $70,000 plus on a pickup truck, you don't get any kind of interior ambient lighting. And that is just a huge, huge screw up on Toyota's part. Now, that said, this SR5 trim is pretty quiet to drive around in. It's nice and smooth and not a whole lot of noise. And then of course, if you go with the limited and higher packages, you get things like acoustic glass to make it even quieter, but nevertheless, you get the idea. There are just things about the inside of this truck that feel tinny and plasticky, and they should have done a little bit better. And that leads into the next thing, which is the center console design. Kind of like the 4Runner, this thing is just stupid. On the Ford pickup truck, you at least have like the ability to shove the shifter down and turn it into like a little desk. On the Rams, you have this cavernous center console storage where you can even put a safe on the inside of it. By the way, that is an optional extra on some Toyota models, but you get the idea. Instead, you have this weird armrest that has this like tray that slides in and out that will ultimately get in the way. And if you forget to take something off of it when you want to open up the center console, well, of course, it will then go flying in the back. So yeah, I don't know. And then they made one cup holder deeper than the other, so that means your cups are not equal size. If you don't get the limited trim, you don't get the magnetic charger, and that means there's no, and if you don't have the magnetic charger, but you want to be able to charge your phone still, that means you have to have a cord either hanging from the center of the dashboard, or you got to somehow figure out how to get a cable from the center console up into this little phone holding area. Storage in general in this truck is just kind of lacking. If you get the hybrid model, there's even less places to store things, but in the regular iForce model that has just the twin turbos, there's just not a whole lot going on. I mean, Rams have pockets here and storage on the door. This is like the 4Runner where you've got this like useless little plasticky pocket here that like can't hold anything, including a cell phone, maybe like a wrench or a tool or something like that. But and again, higher trim levels get rid of the little cubby there. Every single pickup truck on the market today, from Ford, Ram, all of them, they have a little storage spot on the top, but no, Toyota decided not to do that for whatever reason. They don't have any extra storage above the glove box. And then of course, if you get to the back seats, the only thing you have the ability to do is lift them up this way. And there is some storage underneath here, which is nice. But in like every other pickup truck, you can make the seats go flat. In fact, in the Ram, you've even got like a little thing that will sort of sit up like a table here, allowing you to have a completely flat surface. And that's really, really nice. Why Toyota can't figure out a way to make good storage in their vehicles is absolutely beyond me, but it's, well, it's a thing. Another annoying thing about the interior quality of the Tundra is all the fake buttons. So for example, in the higher packages, I'm just gonna turn the camera around here. In the higher packages, all right, now because my camera mount is missing, I'm gonna go ahead and do this the uber dangerous and sketchy way, which is hold the camera while driving. In any event, let's go ahead and talk about some interior stuff with the Toyota Tundra and why you may not want to buy one. For starters, I actually like the V6 twin turbo. It is a little bit better on gas and it is plenty fast and powerful. However, there is some very weird thing with the acceleration on the non-hybrid models where, and I don't know if this is turbo lag or really what this is, but basically if you like romp on the gas because you're either trying to pass somebody or you're trying to, get off the line really quick, there is this very bizarre delay that happens from when you basically floor the pedal and when it actually starts moving. And then even more bizarre is when you abruptly take your foot off the gas because you either want to cruise or you need to hit the brake. There seems to be this like lack of natural deceleration. Basically, like the car almost keeps on accelerating at the same rate as if you were flooring the pedal, even though you have taken your foot off the gas. It's a very, very weird thing, but basically the accelerator pedal algorithm needs to be tweaked, and that goes for eco mode, regular mode, sport mode, whatever. I'm sure a pedal commander could probably fix that, but it also seems like that might be something inherent to the overall design and engineering of the vehicle. And then the last thing on our list is reliability. I bet you wouldn't imagine I'd have questions about the reliability on a Toyota product, but I do. And apparently I'm not the only one. Apparently JD Power and Associates rates the Toyota Tundra almost one of the least reliable pickup trucks that you can buy right now. Let's also not forget that this model first was introduced, the third generation Tundra was introduced in 2022, and it has had a slew of quality control problems. Basically, they make Tesla look like they're doing a good job. It's stuff that Toyota has absolutely no excuse to be having problems with. Things like shaky windows and wind noise and trim panels not adding up, creaks and rattles and scratches and all kinds of annoying things. But worst of all are the mechanical ones. And that's that if you bought a 2022 version, you'd probably need to get your turbos replaced. Now, ultimately they will replace these things under warranty, but there are also some very bizarre issues that Toyota still hasn't gotten fixes for. Let me go ahead and demonstrate one of them. And I don't know if it's actually gonna come up here on camera, but I'm gonna turn the AC off here. I don't know if you can hear that, but there is a very severe squeak. Turn on the AC again. There is a very severe squeak when you push back on the seat. And that is, I've test driven a few Tundras, and that seems to be across all trim levels and almost all the models. Now that is a glaring quality control problem, but basically the lumbar supports are, I think, rubbing up against the foam of the seat, and thus making a very annoying noise every single time you try to push back or accelerate or whatever. But it is annoying, and it's also a problem that a lot of other Tundra owners are having and acknowledging. Toyota also seems to have acknowledged that it is a problem, but they haven't come out with a fix yet. Hopefully they do, of course, but doesn't matter. This car is now actually almost 2 years old, and they still haven't solved it. Is that really the Toyota that we used to know? And you know, there's still stuff like the fact that a lot of Toyota's like features, like their navigation and remote start and all that other stuff, is on a subscription model now, which is really annoying and kind of a slap in the face. I mean, Ram's remote start is done with the remote, and other manufacturers make you pay for map updates, but you don't actually have to pay to use the navigation. And in a car that already is equipped with wireless CarPlay, where you get to use Google Maps or Apple Maps for free, well, what's the point of paying for their subscription? I don't know, but apparently Toyota thinks there must be one. But that's basically that. That is the Toyota Tundra in a nutshell. It is basically a reliable truck overall, I think. And, you know, I've driven the new Fords and the new Rams. Actually, the new Ram is probably one of the best put together pickup trucks that you can buy. But I rode in a King Ranch F-150, and I wasn't blown away by the reliability and interior build of that either. You know, they have things like the gear shift, or, you know, the shifter is electronic, so when you push down on the little button, it has a little electric motor that allows you to switch between park, drive, neutral, reverse. And then for that matter, has a little button that you can also lay it down, so you can then turn the center console into a table. That is just a motor that can and probably will break, you know, just kind of classic Ford stuff, issues with leaking sunroofs, you get the idea. The Toyotas, thankfully, don't seem to have a problem with their panoramic roofs, among some other stuff. But nevertheless, it just doesn't seem like this new Tundra has the Toyota reliability formula. But I guess time will tell. Anyway, those are reasons why you may not want to buy a Toyota Tundra. I hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe, as we've got another slew of Toyota videos coming your way. And if you have any questions about the Tundra, feel free to reach out to us in the comments section. Otherwise, we will be back with another video really soon.